Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Neil Winterregg, joined by Abby Johnson, and we are with Matterhorn Business Development. It's been a while since the two of us did a video together.
Yeah,
this is excellent.
It's kind of weird.
And that's because we're coming at you with a heavy subject today. We're here to talk about what nobody wants to talk about in business.
It's the dreaded R word, responsibility.
Ouch. Well, the good news is, as an employer, I have no responsibility for what my employees do. So it's all on their fault, and I can just blame everything on them.
They're the one that messed up, so.
End of video. Actually, probably not. We probably have a little bit more to talk about with regards to responsibility. Now, what do we mean with that? Well, let's talk about it in a way that anybody can look at. What did I do, or how did I mess up that created that situation? And that is something that is not easy for everybody to do. You can sit there and find millions of reasons as to why you had nothing to do with anything that happened. And it happens with employees. It happens with selling and prospects. We can always say, well, that guy's a moron and wouldn't know a good deal if it bit him. And it's not my fault that he went down the street and bought something from somebody else, or he got mad. It's the delivery driver's fault. But there's always something that we did.
Yeah, so I want to give an example of this, and I've had to have this talk recently with a couple of clients. So let's say you were in an unfortunate situation where you were embezzled from. So you had someone who you thought was so trustworthy. You handed over all of your finances to them because they were an accountant. This has actually happened to people we have known, unfortunately. They're an accountant. Of course they can pay your bills for you. Of course they can handle your money for you. And this isn't to scare you away from all accountants, but there are dishonest people out there who put up a good front. And how could you have known that this accountant was actually going to turn around and embezzle from you? Now, you can easily say, well, I couldn't have known. There's nothing I could have done. They're a criminal and I'm screwed now and I'm the victim of this and wah. Now, you have every right to be upset in this situation. This would be an awful situation to be in. But once you get over the initial shock of it, I would want you to look at what could I have done to prevent that. Now, just think about, well, I could have taken responsibility for my own finances and paid my own bills. I could have...
That's too easy.
It sounds so simple, but I know so many business owners who hate their finances so much, they don't even want to think about it and they just completely hand it over to someone. But then situations like this can happen. Maybe you could have asked for references from his other clients that he's been doing bill pay for, or this kind of unusual, this isn't a totally typical accounting service here. So you could have looked at reference checks. You could have started, doing the bills in-house. There are things that you could have done. It's unfortunate. He put up a good front. He seemed like a trustworthy person, and there's not much you could have done in that sense, but you could have taken these other steps to prevent this from happening. And that's what you're going to have to do in the future to make sure this does not happen again.
Yeah, and another point to talk about with regards to this is, let's talk about employees for an instance, because I have employees and people come and they go and, things happen and they, upset a client or a customer and those things occur. And, you go, well, how did this employee upset that person? Well, how does that have anything to do with me? It doesn't. My employee said something stupid to that customer. That customer decided to take their business elsewhere and I had to let that person go. And you can say, well, that's the solution. Well, let's think about this for a second. That employee has done other things similar to what upset that customer and you didn't stop it. You didn't change it. You didn't fire them last week when you probably should have. You just said, well, I really don't want to mess with hiring another person right now. I mean, right now, nobody really wants to work and it's hard to find good employees. So I'm just going to stick this one out. And then they upset somebody. That's how you created that situation. And that's how you had that situation occur. So yes, that employee did do something that you had no control over. But you can't sit there and complain to the world about how this employee wronged you, because in reality, you wronged yourself by not doing something about it sooner and in that regard. Now, the handling for that is simply to go, you know what? I completely messed up. I should have just fired them last week. What a moron I am. Well, I gotta hire a new employee and find a new customer. That might be all it is. You don't have to start crying and go under your desk and hide for a month about how this employee wronged you and wronged your customer. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It's just a matter of looking at it and going, you know what did I do wrong there? Yeah, I guess I did make a mistake. And if you can admit to the mistakes that you made or how you contributed to something occurring, you're gonna make it through life a lot easier because you can sit there and actually be aware of what you're doing, which I'm gonna be honest with you, most people are not aware of what they're doing.
And that's a really good point I wanted to bring up is your attitude around this. So, sitting there and going, oh, I'm the worst boss ever and I should have fired them and I lost the accounts and I should just give up, and beating yourself up about it is not responsibility and is not going to get you anywhere. So you have to be able to kind of take the high road with yourself and maintain a positive attitude, even though you might have gone through something as sucky as just being embezzled from, but you have to say, you know what, this was a lesson and I learned from it and I'm going to do this differently next time. But yeah, like Neil said, don't just crawl under your desk and be super hard on yourself, because that's also not going to help you, your employees, or your customers.
Yeah, responsibility is a tough thing because we always look for, especially nowadays, it seems like everybody tries to find a reason of why everything happened to them that had no control over what occurred. But that's really not the case. If you get into a traffic accident, you could say, well, I had no idea that person was going to swerve in front of me. Well, if you actually were paying attention to while you were driving, you would have noticed that they started to move their car and you didn't react. But what was happening was, like most people, you were driving 2 inches in front of your car and not paying attention to what was going on around you. And when that person did that, they hit you. And as soon as I realized that as a driver, that if I paid more attention to everybody else than what I was doing, I didn't get in any more accidents. That's because I don't worry about what I'm doing. I worry about making sure nobody else. And I go, why is that guy weaving? Maybe he's trying to get over. And sure enough, a few seconds later, he cuts over, and if I had been next to him, I would have been hit. But instead I thought, I'm gonna wait a second and see what occurs. That is responsibility. And again, most people don't do it. Now, if you can look at how you are responsible for your life and the situations that you're in and your business and things like that, you automatically win the game. Why is that? Well, it is because the majority of people around you have no idea that there is a game going on around them, except you do, which means you're playing a game nobody else is even aware of is happening, and you can win so easily because it's like the goalkeeper is on lunch break and you get to just keep shooting the ball into the net as many times as you want because nobody else is even aware that there's a game going on.
So if you can't learn this lesson and implement this lesson, you will fail. If you do this and you are able to take responsibility and learn from mistakes, even if they weren't 100% your mistake, you will have a leg up on your competition and you will succeed. So this might be the single most important video that we've ever made, to be honest.
It just occurred to me. How many people do we talk to are entrepreneurs who are like, oh, I'm so behind. I'm so overworked. I've got these deadlines. I've got this thing. Well, guess what? You gave yourself the deadline. The guy called you and said, could you do this in this time frame? And you said, yeah. When you couldn't. Guess what? It's not the customer's fault. It's your fault. Because if that person called me and said, could you do it by this timeline? I'd be like, no, I can't.
Yeah, I've had that talk with clients.
Yes. And if you're honest, you'll still get the job. You just don't have to do it in that time period. Yep. That was insane. You accepted your insanity in your life and in your business schedule because you said yes instead of, no, I can't do that timeline. And then they would go, all right, fine, you can do it by next week instead. You still get the job, you still get paid, and you get it done on time.
So if you feel like you need some tough love in your life, click below on the Work With Us link so you can find out how to work with us either one-on-one or in our group program, Adventure to Profit.
And be sure you check out metapulse.com. They are our channel sponsor and our partners. They are good friends over there, and they will also help get you organized and on track. So go ahead, check them out as well, and we'll look for your comments down below. We'll see you next time.